So we're here in Menlo Park on Sand Hill Road at the famous Kleiner Perkins Caulfield and Byers venture capital firm, here with Steve Wesley, whose Wesley Group venture capital firm is now formally affiliated with Kleiner Perkins and is working on many of the same issues related to climate change, renewable energy, new vehicles, new fuels, and all this. And we're going to talk sort of in a freewheeling way about the role that Sacramento has played in creating some opportunities by changing policy directions which were perhaps not appropriate to more appropriate ones, and then the role that Silicon Valley plays in inventing the tools and the ways of living that can move California and America and the rest of the world into the future.
The big question for a lot of people is, where can you make the most change? You know, obviously I would have loved to have been governor, but if you can't be governor, by God, being in Silicon Valley, I think, is the next best thing. And we're seeing some stunning things where, as I often said during the campaign, where Washington has failed, I think California has a chance to lead. And one of these is in zero-emission vehicles. So the debate in the last 2 years, a lot of people have been focused on is, my gosh, can we move from Hummers to hybrid cars? Hybrids are the future. Hybrids are great. Can we get hybrids in
what about hydrogen Hummers?
the
Arnold has one.
Well, the rub is there's only one of those. But what I would suggest is faster than people realize, and Arnold vetoed the legislation that would have required 50% of vehicles in California to be alternative fuel by 2012. What I'm suggesting is there are technologies being developed right here in California, in Silicon Valley, that will move us ahead much more quickly. There aren't just hybrid vehicles getting 50 or 60 miles an hour, they're zero-emission vehicles. And people say, why is zero emission so important? Ponder this. The largest polluter on the face of the planet is no longer the United States, it's China. In 2007 they passed us on carbon emissions. They're the second largest auto buyer in the world. Folks, we have a bigger problem than just moving from 25 miles per gallon cars to 50 miles per gallon cars. We need cars that are zero emission, and not just the US, but China and the rest of the developing countries. So what's the rub here? When most people think of electric cars, they think of golf carts, going in the bicycle lane that can maybe go 10 or 20 miles without a charge up. Here in Silicon Valley, a San Carlos firm called Tesla has developed a car with a 250-mile-an-hour range that goes 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds, faster than any Porsche, and you can plug it in to your outlet at home, so you'll never have to pay a penny for gas. And if you're smart enough to put solar on your roof, you'll never pay a penny for electricity.
Right.
This is a world-changing thing. Is this the future? I've driven this car, and you're going to see production.
How fast
vehicles.
have you driven it?
I drove it too fast.
Oh, obviously off a public road. You can tell us how fast you drove it.
That's right.
100, 140, or what?
It tops out even a little higher than that.
Really?
But I was more interested in the 0 to 60. But it's a rush. It's a great thing. But you'll see them on the road. And I think the question becomes, who's going to want to drive a Porsche when you can drive a faster car that looks better and uses no gasoline? So you'll see these on the road in the fall. It's just one of the things that I think is cementing the image that California is going to continue to lead in clean tech and change the world.
It's a very peaceful surrounding here. We've got, what sort of trees are these that we have here? These are California.
I think these are
California oak.
California oaks. It's a beautiful day
right
in Silicon Valley, but I think it underscores the question: how do we keep the climate on the planet beautiful? Another thing I'm excited to be working on is the holy grail in energy has been, when can you get to the point where you can produce alternative energy, read solar, wind, it's somewhere near the same cost as coal and natural gas.
Right.
For the first time, we're seeing solar facilities that are actually able to compete with coal and gas. And when you get to the point where you can begin to move the world's energy production off the coal standard, but beyond natural gas to solar, then you've done something stunning.
Now, are we talking solar plants with concentrated solar collectors, or are we talking, rooftop solar arrays?
Both.
Both.
Because we're in a race, and this is something that Sacramento doesn't always understand. This is not a subjective problem. This is a problem that's huge, and we need to not just or hold carbon emissions to 2007 standards. We've got to turn back the clock. We've got to start putting less carbon into the air. So what better way to do that than to make all of our utility generated electricity from alternative sources? What's interesting to me is that people are moving the meter forward in two ways. One, companies and homeowners, like my wife and I, are putting solar on our roof. And with the California credits, the Million Solar Roofs initiative that I supported, in concert with now federal tax credits, makes the payback not 12 or 10 years or even 8 or 9 years, but as little as 4 or 5 years. When you get down to that point, you pay back an initial investment, I think in the case of our home, maybe $60,000, when you have earned that back in 4 years and then never have to pay a penny for energy or utility bills again, that's a stunning change. You'll see more people putting solar on their roofs and more companies like Google, who has been a leader, not just as a great company with soaring stock price, not just listed as the best company in the country to work for. They've just installed the largest solar array on their roofs, 1.6 megawatts. This is the equivalent of a small utility generator that they've done just on their roofs. But you'll see PG&E and SoCal Edison in the future putting solar array systems largely in the desert that generate as much power as a large utility. That will be a stunning thing.
Now, what I was getting at earlier is it's a very different environment here from Sacramento. It's and actually, when you drive over here from San Francisco, or if you are unfortunate enough to drive here from Sacramento, because it's a much longer drive, the last 15 miles or so on 280 is much more restful and serene, certainly than anything associated with politics. How do you see, or you obviously come out of the Silicon Valley culture with eBay, but now you're back in it. How would you characterize the difference between the two?
Well, I think Silicon Valley is a stunning place. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I want to do everything I can to keep it this way. But look, Sacramento is exciting in its own way, and I miss a lot of it, and I obviously go back to the Capitol every month or so to sit down with legislators, share some of the insights I have, and just to keep track of what's going on.
It's, I don't know, now, this is the venture capital side of things. That the manufacturing side can be obviously a little more chaotic and perhaps less serene, but how would you describe the venture capital culture, particularly comparing it to the political culture?
What's interesting, because there are some similarities, and it's why I kind of liked going back and forth from Silicon Valley to Sacramento, is one, you've got to move quickly. Things are changing, the dynamics are changing. You know, what's happening in Sacramento, one day Arnold's on the far right, the next day he's on the left, the dynamics change. One day the speaker hates the governor, the next day they're embracing. Last time I checked, they were kissing each other. So things change a lot. Same in Silicon Valley. They're exciting environments. The other thing is, you don't get ahead in Silicon Valley without taking a risk. The same is in Sacramento. When I told people I was leaving a great job on the faculty at Stanford and I was going into high tech and eventually I was going to work for an online garage sale, people said I was crazy. It was a big risk.
I think I said that to you also.
But look, it turned out to be eBay. Risks paid off. When I ran for governor, you never know if you're going to win. You're swinging for the fence. That is a big, big deal. And the fact you don't make it one time, it's not a surprise. I'm no stranger to risk. And you keep getting up to the plate, good things will happen.